You're listening to the Why Boarding School podcast, broadcasting around the world. Join us as we promote independent boarding schools throughout the United States and Canada with our invited guests. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jeffrey Quebec.
Welcome to the Why Boarding School podcast. I'm Jeff Quebec, and today I'm joined by the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Middlesex School in Concord, Massachusetts, Doug Price. Welcome, Doug. It's great to have you here today.
It's great to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Middlesex School was founded as a non-denominational boarding school for boys in 1901. Its 350-acre campus is located in the historic town of Concord, Massachusetts. In 1974, Middlesex became coeducational and began admitting girls to school. Doug, perhaps you can start off by giving our audience a brief overview of the number of students at Middlesex, the grades you offer, where the students come from, etc.
Sure. We have an enrollment of approximately 420 students, and we are 50-50 on the ratio, boy-girls. About 70 to 73% of our students are boarding students, and they come this year from 32 states and 20 different countries. So really a national and then international population. Our day students are generally from with about a 30 to 40 minute radius, though we do have a few that are making a little bit longer drive to school each day.
Very nice. And the grades you offer?
We are in grades 9 through 12. Our entry points for admissions, the primary entry point is 9th grade, and then 10th grade would be second, and then we have a very small entering class coming into 11th grade.
Okay. And Doug, what is the academic curriculum like at Middlesex School?
Yeah, I would say that it's very rigorous, and it's very broad and deep for a school our size. We offer over 180 courses across the curriculum. Students are placed by ability upon entry in mathematics and foreign language, and they have the ability of really focusing in greater depth once they get through the sophomore year. The first 2 years, I would say, are broad kind of building block years, across the curriculum, and then they can go again in depth in their junior and senior years in areas of strength and interest.
Very nice. And can you tell me a little bit about the visual and performing arts offerings?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're really excited. Our facilities were updated within the last 10 years. About 10 years ago, we built a new music center that's used for recitals, their practice rooms. It was something that was really needed on campus. And then more recently, about 5 years ago, we completely renovated and updated our visual and performing arts in terms of theater complex. We have a professional theater that seats about 550 students. We have a smaller theater, which they call a black box experimental theater, that's, it accommodates smaller shows, rehearsals, and seats about 100 students. And then on the visual arts, we have a variety of different offerings, from photography to ceramics to drawing to painting to wood carving, and really spectacular facilities for each of those particular areas.
Very nice. Are there any special signature programs that are offered at Middlesex?
Yeah, there are quite a few. I think many families come to Middlesex and they've heard about our writing workshop. This actually occurs in the sophomore year, and everybody's writing is basically broken down and then built back up in I would say a very logical, evidence-based style. Students have to pass out of the writing workshop by writing different paragraphs, and then they also have a grammar assessment too. So every student, regardless of their experience coming in, will leave as an accomplished writer. That's something that we really commit to. We have some similar signature programs in the STEM area. There's actually a program called EXPERT that stands for Experience in Problem Solving, Reasoning, and Technology, which allows students who are really gifted and interested in higher level STEM work to work on projects outside of their class and then receive particular designation on their transcripts as being expert certified. And students have done different things. They've built applications. They've done research on different areas of science, but that's been a really wonderful addition. And then a third area that we feel like we've really been in the forefront of is mindfulness meditation. And this has been going on for about 16 years. All new students will begin the year with an introductory course that meets 10 times and teaches them the basics of meditation and a variety of tools, such as learning how to use your breath to slow the physiological response. But it really has had a wonderful impact on student wellness, on sleep, on focus, and it's something that we're very committed to. So much so that all of the teachers and faculty have also gone through the introductory course, and then there are multiple levels of it after the introductory course that are optional for students as well.
That's awesome. Certainly some wonderful opportunities for the students, and I could see where the faculty would want to say, hey, how do I sign up?
Exactly.
Pretty cool.
No, it's very popular.
And how about athletics? Is every student required to play a sport each season? And also, what are some of the athletic offerings that Middlesex has?
Yeah. So we're very traditional on that front in that we require 9th and 10th graders to play a sport each season. 11th graders have to play a sport 2 seasons, and then seniors have a 1 season requirement. Now, if the student happens to be a multi-sport athlete, they're obviously going to continue with their sports all the way through. And we have many students who are playing 2 or 3 seasons of sports in their senior year. We offer a broad range of athletic opportunities on the interscholastic front. Traditional sports in the fall, such as football, soccer, cross country, field hockey, volleyball, are all offered. In the winter, there are actually more offerings, variety of offerings. We added Nordic skiing to alpine skiing 2 years ago. We have hockey, we have basketball, we have squash, we have wrestling as options. And I think I've got them all. And then in the spring, lacrosse, baseball, softball, track, tennis, and rowing are the sports that are offered at the school. 2 things we don't offer are water related, and that would be swimming and water polo, simply because we don't have a pool.
Okay. And so I assume there's different levels within each one of these sports?
There are at least 2 levels within each sport. Many of the sports have 3 levels. And those sports, the varsity obviously wants to be very competitive, and generally those teams are. Junior varsity is filled with athletes who want to eventually work their way up to the varsity program, and they also have very competitive full schedules. When we have a thirds team, I would say it's more instructional, more about just having fun. These are mostly students who haven't played the sport before, but are really enjoying the team camaraderie and all the benefits of athletics.
Very nice. So Doug, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation talking about the Middlesex School in Concord, Massachusetts.
Sounds great.
Do you have any questions or guests that you'd like to see on an upcoming Why Boarding School podcast? You can contact us directly through our website at whyboardingschool.com. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Why Boarding School podcast. I'm Jeff Quebec, and today I'm joined by the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at the Middlesex School in Concord, Massachusetts, Doug Price. And Doug, as we continue our conversation, perhaps you can share with our audience, what is a typical school day like at Middlesex?
Yeah. So our class day typically begins at 8 o'clock and runs till 3:10. And those would be on the full days of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's 7 class periods that meet within that time frame. There are 2 blocks that are allocated for lunch. Most students will have 4 or 5 classes on a given day. So you're going to have a period for lunch. You're probably going to have 1 or 2 free periods during the academic day. And what you do with that time is really up to you. Often students will meet with teachers. They'll get ahead on some work, finish some work, just relax, hang out with friends. But it's kind of a college-like schedule in that there's no supervised study hall or place that you have to be. Athletics in the fall and in the spring will take place from 3:30 to about 5:15. It's a little bit different in the winter, given that most of our sports are indoors, and we have, for instance, 6 basketball teams, that 3 girls and 3 boys in the winter, and we have 2 courts, so they have to alternate practice times, and sometimes they'll have a 3:30 practice, sometimes they'll have a 7 o'clock practice, and it's similar to that in ice hockey as well. After athletics, and in the fall and the spring, there's a chunk of time. The dining hall is typically open from about 5:30 to 7. Many student organizations and clubs will meet from 7 to 8. 8 o'clock is when study hours, quiet time kicks into play. And for 9th graders and 10th graders, they have to be in their dormitories during that time frame. 11th and 12th graders have the ability to sign out to somewhere on campus. They can go to the library, they can go to a classroom, they can go to a variety of areas where students do a lot of group work. Then everybody is back in, the 11th and 12th graders at 10. The 9th graders have until 10:30, and then they have lights out. And so those are, the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays. Wednesdays and Saturdays are half days for us. And so they start at 8, they end at about 12 o'clock. We have our athletic contests within our league take place typically on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and in the 2 to 3 o'clock range. So that's kind of a typical day within the week.
So in addition to those Saturday classes, what else happens on the weekend? Are there events on campus, maybe different clubs or activities or trips off campus? How does that work?
Yeah, all of the above. We have a student activities committee that is predominantly students with a director from the faculty. And on a given weekend, you're going to find on-campus events such as movies, talent shows, dances, recitals. Some of our clubs will have events, like the Middlesex Art Association might do an open studio. Our cooking club has become actually pretty popular. They might have an event on a Saturday night. There's gaming clubs that will meet, board games and visual games as well. So there's a lot going on. And also, if you were to walk into a dormitory on a Saturday night, you'll probably find a small group of students watching a movie or watching a game on TV. So you really have the choice of kind of deciding to go all in on the Middlesex on-campus activities or just relaxing with your friends. We also have a variety of trips off campus. There are some that will go on Saturday afternoon. There are more that go on Sunday. Totally optional. They range from going to grocery stores, to going to movies, to going to events in Boston. We buy tickets to everything from the opera to art galleries, to the Red Sox and college hockey. And so lots of different opportunities. We also take advantage of our location, which is really kind of a country location, but close to Boston. And when the weather's nice, there are hiking trips. We go apple picking. So there's a lot to do. And then Concord itself is only 3 miles from town, and it's obviously very historic. It's quaint, but there are pizza places, there are sandwich places, there are diners, and we have a shuttle van that takes students in there if they just want to go in and get something to eat with some friends. So wide range of options.
It certainly seems very student-centered.
Yes, very student-centered.
That's great. So, Doug, perhaps you can tell us a little about the meals on campus. Are they served sit-down? Are they buffet? Are they required? How does that work?
Yeah, so our meals are buffet style, and typically they're about 2 hours allocated for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And you eat with whom you want to eat, when you want to eat during those time frames. We don't have required meals except for a couple of occasions when we have a more formal event, such as our holiday concert, which takes place in early December, and then there's a more formal dress code. There's seated meals by advisor group. But that happens 2 or 3 times a year. Otherwise, it's pretty informal, and partially because we're a school that has an incredible amount of student-teacher interaction, both in and outside of class. That philosophically we believe in letting the kids have their downtime and really enjoy each other at meals.
So, Doug, you referenced a little bit earlier regards to the dorms. What is dorm life like at Middlesex School?
Oh, it's fun. Kids will talk about it being a home away from home. The sizes of our dorms, I think, really make sense. They typically range from about 25 to 35 students in a dorm. About 2/3 of our rooms are single rooms. Though most new students will live in a double their first year. And then after that, they have the choice of whether they live in a single, a double, or there are even some triples. The dorm faculty who live there, and they're usually 3 resident apartments of faculty members, so there's a good adult presence there. They try to make it as warm and home-like as possible. Often that involves food and different types of events and pizza nights, or come on in, use the kitchen. There are dorm versus dorm competitions that happen twice a year, and just fun events like tug of war and volleyball, and so there's a lot of spirit on each dorm. And some dorms have their own traditions. We have one girls' dorm that for years has twice a year gotten up, gotten all bundled up, gone over to the dock on our pond and watched the sunrise. And then they go to their faculty members' apartments and they have a breakfast. And that's a tradition that this particular dorm enjoys.
Oh, that's great. So in addition to the dorm parents, is there also an advisor system at Middlesex?
Yeah, that's a real strength and I think differentiating factor here. Our advisor system is done on an individual basis. So initially, students are assigned an advisor and they meet one-on-one with their advisor once a week for 40 minutes. There are other times where we might have advisory group meetings. The most advisees in a group would be 6, so they're pretty small. But given the one-on-one nature of advising here, usually a very strong connection is formed between the students and the teachers, and also the families too. We also build choice into the system. So after the first semester of a student's career here, and then once a year, if they wanted to switch to a different advisor, they have the ability to do so. Doesn't happen that often. To give you an example, we had about 110 new students last year. 90 of them kept their advisor for their second year. So usually the connection's very good, but we really want that to be a strong connection. So if a student feels like their relationship with their current advisor is good, but they really have a strong connection with a teacher, with a coach, with a dorm parent, we want them to feel comfortable in making that change.
Would you say, is there a typical Middlesex School student?
I wouldn't. And I think that's one of the nice things about the school. I think that there's some qualities I think they all have in common. We talk about the letters CKC as being really important to our community. That would be curiosity, kindness, and courage. And these are values that I believe if we're doing a good job at admissions, our students are coming in with, but then they're modeled by each other and a really positive peer culture on those areas. But outside of that, students come in with diverse strengths, be they academic, be they extracurricular, arts, athletics. and again from a variety of different backgrounds. Students from all over the world and all over the country, and that just adds to the value of the boarding school experience. Learning how to interact and relate to students who are different from you and have different philosophies. So yeah, that's. And when we do kind of interviews with students when we're doing our own videos and we ask them that question, they give the same answer I did, that there isn't a typical student.
That's great. Are there any cool traditions at Middlesex School that may be unique from other schools? Or Doug, perhaps there's that one tradition that you hope always remains part of the school?
Well, I think the one that is most visible to families when they visit the school is that we require all of our seniors to do a wood carving or a plaque, as we call them. And this is something that they leave. It's a piece of themselves. And beginning in 1901, the smallest class of 6 boys did their plaques, and now you can go through every academic building and the dining hall, and they're grouped by class. And there are no restrictions on this. This is something that students, they come up with a concept, the idea. Sometimes it's related to Middlesex. Often it's related to home or family or a particular interest. They get help in this process as much as they need in terms of the different stages of actually carving a plaque. But it's really wonderful because our alumni will come back from decades, and one of the first things they want to do is they want to find their plaque. And we have a directory, and we'll take them to it, and it's just it's kind of inspirational watching them interact with it and kind of remember what they were thinking when they were carving it, and how their life has evolved since then.
And I also imagine hearing the stories behind what went into the design and how they come up with that topic, or how, to carve it.
Yeah, and some of them kind of come in as ninth graders and already have an idea, and that continues. But for many of them, that will evolve and change over their time.
What a great tradition. So, yeah. Doug, before we speak about the admissions process, is there anything about Middlesex School that we didn't discuss today that you'd like to mention?
Well, I think that our size, honestly, from my perspective, is ideal for our high school. 420 students. We're big enough to, again, offer really broad and really deep programs, academics, athletics, arts, clubs. There are over 75 student clubs this year. But as a smaller school and one that emphasizes the advising program and really close-knit relationships in the dormitory. Every student here is really known and really valued for who they are. You cannot be anonymous at Middlesex, and we think that's a real value.
Well, certainly a small school and having over 75 clubs is certainly quite impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah. It tells you about the breadth of interest and the curiosity of our kids.
So if someone's interested in Middlesex School, how might they go about starting the admissions process?
It really starts, through an inquiry, which can come from a variety of sources. The primary source would be through our website. There's an inquiry form that you fill out. There are external websites that work with private schools, where often a student might be doing a search and then send an inquiry that way. But really the beginning process is to send an inquiry. We then respond with some materials on the school's general program and also some links to our curriculum. And then we encourage families to arrange an on-campus visit to see what they feel about the school culture, the vibe they get, learning more about our students, what they're saying about the school. And then from there, we hope they'll apply, and there are a variety of steps in the application process.
And Doug, what is the school's website address?
It is mxschool.edu.
Perfect. mxschool.edu. Well, Doug, this is great. I've enjoyed our conversation, learning more about Middlesex School and sharing with our audience. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure.
Doug Price, Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid, Middlesex School in Concord, Massachusetts.
Thank you for listening to the Why Boarding School podcast. We look forward to you joining us for our next episode. Please remember to subscribe to the Why Boarding School podcast and help us spread the word. Until next time.